This year, as we began, was an election year. In fact, lots of scams and lots of problems. Politicians in the government brought out some issues. In fact, you may have heard of the electoral bond scam. Have you heard of that? In fact, actually, media different ways presented it, and as usual, the governing leaders will try and make every effort to cover it up or give an explanation. Right now, in our state of Karnataka, there is another scam or some scandal that has taken place. It is called the Muda scam, and then the government and those in authority are trying maximum to cover the scandal. I'm not sure if it is a scandal or not, but there is some effort being made from the ruling as well as the opposition to somehow rake up the issue and cause the government to take some important decisions. Now, when you have power, when you have authority, there are various ways you can use it and abuse it, right? Authority and power gives you that capacity. Now, look at this situation, especially when we ourselves know some good people, powerful people, and they do some bad things. Will we go and talk about it to others? No. We know the good people. We like the good people. And we will not like to talk the negative things about the good people. Am I correct? Right? We will like to cover it up. Today, in 2 Samuel, 2 chapters, we will have an overview. We are going to see a very mysterious murder plot which involves adultery, which involves evil of a ruler. Except that we have, in the study that we have done, we kind of like this leader and do not like to hear negative things about this leader. Okay? But this leader becomes callous and does one of the worst mistake that he can ever do. David. See, this series we started picking up certain special incidents of his life. In 1 Samuel chapter 20, when we studied about the friendship and covenant friendship between Jonathan and David. In the 25th chapter of the 1 Samuel, we studied about how foolish he could have been had he acted or reacted out of anger and gone and murdered Nabal, the fool, for food. He would have lost his throne. That here is a king, he is trying to kill. He killed a person because of food. Foolish way. And Abigail steps in and brings some wisdom there. We also saw in the 2 Samuel and 1st chapter, when Jonathan died, David wept. There we saw how sensitive, how fragile David's mind is, but also how lamenting in the Bible is okay, that we can cry out and tell our pain before God. And last week we saw how David valued the presence of God. In the way the Ark of the Covenant was brought, it was a priority issue for him over all that he had. after having been seated on the throne, the thing that mattered to him the most was to get the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. But now we see how this human heart becomes callous, becomes numb, and almost at the verge of destroying our life. We would actually, technically speaking, we would have covered up this scandal. Because we like David, we would have covered up this scandal. But then, God allows it to be recorded. You know why? 2 Timothy chapter 3, 16, 17. The Bible tells us what is the Bible for. It's not about covering up. It's not something that you do, you cover up and manage. No. This is what the Bible is all about. It is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in how to live right. So, don't follow David's model here. In chapter 11 and chapter 12, this has been recorded so that we will be careful and we will be corrected. Okay? So when we come to the 11th chapter of 2 Samuel, notice how the Bible helps us understand David's situation. David is now the king, the ruler. We have seen all the accomplishments that he made, big achievements. But now he is seated on the throne. The Ark of the Covenant is there. Palace is there. Soldiers are there. All, whatever he wants is there. It is there. But 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 1 begins in this way. And this happened at the turn of the year, at the time when kings go forth to battle. David sent out Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah, but David still stayed at Jerusalem. David, generally we see him as a very excited person. He had no business to get involved with the Philistines and Goliath. When he actually enters the scene, he should have come for giving food and gone. But this guy has a natural tendency to get involved. He did it. He killed Goliath. He has a sense of, he's a zealous person, He faced life, alert, active and alive. Though kid, but then active, alive, active, constantly very active guy. But somehow, somewhere, in the midst of all the things that David faced or journeyed through, possibly in the midst of success, David lost his passion. Here is the king who has no passion. What makes us say that? Look at verse 1. At the time when kings go forth to battle. This was a season of warfare. This was the season, not the soldiers went to warfare. This was the season kings went to warfare. Okay? Kings were active at this season. Maybe the weather was good, maybe the circumstances was good, but this was the time and a scheduled time, a season of going for war. This was something, a very unique season. Everybody, every king, this was the time of war. Time of war. But here, amidst all that he has achieved, he has no passion. What happened, David? Here you are passionate to kill Goliath, but now you are not sending, you are not going. You, a soldier, you, a warrior, of whom women and men sang, Saul killed 1,000 and David killed 10,000. And what are you doing? Bored. I have so much, life has become so successful. I don't need to go now. I don't need to go. So, David's army has gone and he stays behind. He stays behind. He decided to see the live match. Okay. Let me see, let them fight and I will watch from here. Danger of that decision. You will not watch what you should watch. You will watch what you should not watch. Why? You have abrogated your responsibility as a king. You have abdicated the responsibility of a king. So, when you disown your responsibility as a king, what you should be doing, you're responsible. You should be in the front line of the battlefield. You should be in the front line encouraging your soldiers, ensuring their well-being, ensuring your kingdom expansion. It is your role, it is your responsibility, the king. And you say, I am bored. I am, disengaged life. Can it happen? It can happen. When anything you touch becomes gold, whatever you decide you have, whatever you want in life is available. And the danger is abdicating. Your what is your responsibility? You abandon that responsibility. Danger. Disengaged life. Now, when does that kind of a thinking will come? When will you become passionless? When will you think that it's okay, let them go and do? When you read the next verse, as the Bible helps us record, and it so happened one evening that David arose from his bed. I thought usually people arose from the bed in the morning. Don't you know? Right? We all get up in the morning. Yes or no, my friends? Now he is the king. He can get up whenever he wants. So here is a king so passionless that when his army is fighting the war in the battlefield, here is he sleeping, disengaged, lost passion in life, lost interest in life. Hey, I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. David arose from his bed, not in the morning. So be careful, especially those of us who get up in the evening. If your shift is like that, may God help you. But this situation is very, very crazy, And it so happened one evening that David arose from his bed, not in the morning, and walked on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing. And the woman was very beautiful in appearance. So, what does he do at this situation? Look at what he does. Verse 3. Verse 3 says, and David sent and inquired about the woman. And someone said, is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? And David sent messengers and took her. And she came in to him, and he lay with her. for she was purified from her uncleanness. Then she returned to her house. Here is something interesting that you should note. The perception that David seems to have in this verse as we read is that, and David sent. Okay, notice this. Here is a king. He woke up from his bed evening. He is walking around on the terrace and he looks at the woman bathing. And what does he do? He sent and inquired about the woman. So he has now, he does not have to go and knock at the woman's door and ask, hello madam, who are you, how are you? No. Okay. He does not have to ask her, can you please give me your Insta account? No. Nothing doing. It's all okay. He has so much power that he can send somebody. He says, go and inquire. Okay. So there were people who went to inquire who she is. Now, there are also people who come and inform him of who she is also. In fact, they give her biodata. Her father, who is her father, they tell him. And who is her husband also, they tell him. So the power that David seems to have is so great that anything he wants is available. He can tell and things will happen. And then in the same verse, and David not only sent, but also verse 4 says, and David sent messengers and took her. So there are people for David to send and to bring. Whatever he says can happen. He can send for people, get the information. Yes, sir, it will be done, sir. And now he says, bring that person. Yes, sir, it will be done, sir. And she is brought. In fact, verse 1 itself gives us the kind of authority and power David had. Look there. When the kings go forth to battle, verse 1, David sent out. David should have went out. Okay. But this is no. David sent out. Okay. David sent out whom? Joab and his servants and all Israel. So what happens when you live with this kind of authority and power? When I send, people go. When I ask, people come. You get into a false perception to think I am in control. Do you recognize this? Right? I am in control. I tell people go, they go. I tell people come, they come. That's the danger, and that's the problem. In fact, actually, clearly, David is in charge. Very clear. He is totally in charge. And he sends people jump and go. He's in control. Really? Is he in control? Or maybe he thinks that he is in control, right? He thinks that he is in control. See, this perception of control, is one of the dangerous things. We all, have you heard this? Friends advise, friends tell, drink, but be in control. Right? This is a very common thing, control, be in control, be in control. Okay, so they drink and drive, and then the person, I'm in control. And there are so many things now that will give you a false perception to say, you are in control. Look at this instrument. This will help you pursue, think that you are in control. You want to book a travel, you can book it. You want to fly, you can book it through mobile. You want to handle money, this can do. You want to have some food, everything, virtually everything, this can help you think that you are in, let's all of us say, what? You are in control. And that's a dangerous thought. That's a dangerous thought. Because that perception, it's a deceptive perception. Here in this very, very important incident, what did David lack? Really, in reality, what did David lack? David has everything, but his heart is restless. So he sends for Bathsheba, sleeps with her, and she conceives a child. Look at this. This is the danger, my brothers and sisters, when your responsibility, okay? When every king was in the war field, when you decide to sleep through the day and get up in the evening, when you abandon your responsibility, abandoning the responsibility as a king, abandoning the responsibility as a husband, or anyone, any kind of situation, the moment you abandon your responsibility as a husband, as a wife, as a child, as a son, as a daughter, you abandon your responsibility, as we see here, restlessness will take over. Your responsibility. As a student, you need to be studying. You say, I will study during exam time. Assignment, I will do it exam time. As a husband, I have a role. I abandon that responsibility. Let her do. Or as a wife, I have a responsibility. I will not do. Let him do. Children have a responsibility. I will not do. You know what? Restlessness will take over. Satisfaction will not be there. Fulfillment will not be there. We are created to live with that responsibility. In the Garden of Eden, mandate is given responsibilities. We need to live according to the responsibilities that God has given. But here, David abandons responsibility. The moment we do that, meaninglessness takes over, restlessness takes over, and that's a wide open gate for sin to creep in. Check out. But you are in control. No, this control freak, he thinks that everything is in control. So he is plotting now how to manage. He is powerful. He is the king. He can cover up. He can cover up. So how does he do? David immediately takes control of the situation, and he's engineering and overseeing a brilliant three-phase cover-up program. Okay? 3-step cover-up program. Number 1, phase 1. Okay? David commands Uriah that he should come home. So he comes home, and David is hoping that Uriah will sleep with his wife. He comes home, yes. Uriah does come home, but does not sleep with Bathsheba. So he comes to know that. David is upset. So phase 2. What do we do now? In phase 2, David gets Uriah drink. Okay? Gets him drunk. But even in his drunken mode, Uriah is faithful to his responsibility. Imagine that. He is faithful. The question that he is dealing with is, when my fellow soldiers are suffering in the battlefield, how dare I come and sleep with my wife? How? How can I abandon my responsibility? What a contrast! David is one man who is not doing what he is supposed to do, and Uriah is such a great man. He is willing to recognize that he has a responsibility. He has, that responsibility to which he is to be faithful. Phase 3, David arranges Uriah's murder on the battlefield with one purpose: cover up David's sin. How I can cover up? So step by step, he orchestrates his plan to cover up sin. This is a very painful story. We didn't expect David to behave like this, This is not what we could expect. A man who loved God dearly so much to behave in this manner. In verse 26, this is what we come to realize, a very, very sad situation. What happens? What happens in verse 26 is, uniquely, this you read through this passage, this is something very interesting. When Jonathan died, David wept and wept, lamented for David, for Jonathan. Okay, he cried out and lamented for Jonathan. But a faithful soldier, Uriah, dies. There is no tears in David's heart. There is no tears. And verse 26, the Bible says, and when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah, her husband, was dead, she mourned for her husband. She mourned for her husband. Because she loved her husband. Because she honored her husband. Because she wanted her husband. She mourned for her husband. And when the mourning was past, verse 27, when the mourning was past, David sent and had her brought to his house, and she became his wife. What a sad story. In fact, one of the translation, it says that after a respectful amount of time of Bathsheba's mourning, David acts quickly. He acts very quickly. He does not give time. He's very, quickly he gets her to his house. He sent and collected her quickly. Dear friends, this is a very, very painful story. This is a very sad story. We didn't expect David to behave in this manner. But as we kind of have seen, this is what this perception that I am in control enables us to think this way. That I am in control. I know how to delete all the files. I know how to cover up the files. I know how to manage things. I know how to ensure that there are no footprints, right? No footprints in the crime that I've committed. All phase-wise orchestrated, step-by-step taken care process. I am in control. Well, sir, you are not in control, because the last phrase of verse 27 says, but, dangerous but, okay? This is one of the dangerous but. This is a determining, very important determining but. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. This is a very important thing that we need to understand. As a child of God, you may have been used by God in a special way. But when our heart becomes callous, and when we think that we are in control and can do whatever we want, be careful. You are not in control. God is in control. And God decides to step into the story. God decides to step into the story. A very important truth. God steps into the story. And that is something that we must recognize. Okay, verse chapter 12 gives us that interesting and important information. What does God do? God deals in a very unique way. Let's read that passage, verse chapter 12, verse 1 onwards. And the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said to him, there were two men in one city. Very interesting story, okay? Carefully listen to this story. There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a great many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished. And it grew up with him and with his children. It ate from his own food and drank from his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was like a daughter to him. And a traveler came to the rich man, and he spared his own flocks and his own herd, refusing to take from them to prepare for the traveler who had come to him, but took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. And David's anger burned greatly against the man. And he said to Nathan, "As the Lord lives, the man who has done this thing shall surely die. And he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity." And Nathan said to David, "You are the man." You are the man. Dear friends, notice how God enters into this situation. Prophet is sent. Nathan tells this parable of the lamb, where this rich man and the poor man. Rich man has many, many lambs, but then this poor man's lamb, which was treasured, valuable to that poor man, which was like his daughter. So, the rich man snatches that poor man's lamb and slaughters it. And David's righteousness, righteous anger comes to say, that man shall die. That man shall die. And Nathan, very straightforward, concludes to tell him, "You are that man." This callous heart, callous means this thick skin that has developed. That is the danger in our spiritual journey, That's a danger. As we gradually start growing in our spiritual life, sometimes we start developing thick skin. This thick skin will prevent us from being sensitive to God. Okay? We think that I am in control, sab kuch chalega, everything is okay. I do my quiet time, I lead worship, I sing, I do ministry, but at the same time I'm developing thick skin. How could you even do this criminal activity? Not only adultery, but also murder. Okay, how could you do this? But this is the reality. David's heart has grown so callous, so thick, not willing to, but at this juncture, when God steps into his situation, he is like pierced in his heart. He's pierced in his heart. He knows now he has done something wrong. He has done something wrong. So when he recognizes this, notice how prophet Nathan confronts him. "You are the man. And thus says the Lord God of Israel, I anointed you, David, I anointed you king over Israel. I delivered you out of the hands of Saul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom. and gave you the house of Israel and of Judah. And as if that was too little, in addition, I would have given to you other such things. Why have you despised the commandment of the Lord to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, having killed him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore, sword will never depart from your house. Whoa. A direct confrontation where God confronts David of his evil. But look at David's response. Look at David's response. It's a very interesting response. Verse 13. And David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. I have sinned against the Lord.